welcome in to another live reaction show for the college football playoff rankings brought to you on November 26th, 2024. We are watching the show live with y'all tonight. So we appreciate you guys joining us. They're kind of doing an intro to the show here. So, Lance, give me a couple thoughts and a couple of things that you're looking for tonight.
Well, I just want to see where Indiana, how far do they drop? And I'm interested to see where, in the relation to Boise and some of the Big 12 teams, like how far does Arizona State jump up? Where's Iowa State? I know there's like 8 or 9, whatever it is, Big 12 teams that are still right there in the pack that are capable of winning the Big 12 conference and getting in this big dance. And also, I'm looking to see where is SMU and where is like Alabama, Ole Miss, Clemson, Clemson, and hey, I got ragged hard on that today on that video we put out. And South Carolina, where are those teams at? Where are those teams that are kind of on the, just on the outside that are still possibilities if there's some chaos? If there is some chaos, which one of those teams still have a shot to get in? But yeah, like I'm interested to see where SMU, man, SMU and Miami, because if both of those teams, if SMU takes care of business against Cal and Miami takes care of business against Syracuse this weekend, and they meet in the conference championship game in the ACC title, if whoever loses that game and the runner-up, uh, we've talked about it. It'd be hard to, if you're already in the playoff field, in the 12-team field, you're in the bracket, and you lose in your conference championship game, it kind of sets a tough precedent, man, if you are to lose that game and get knocked out. So I just don't know that there's any large teams that would be just unequivocally better, that word that they like to use, or just deserve it so much more necessarily over those teams. So I'm interested to see where's like if SMU's at 10 tonight, or 11, something like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that if they were to win their game against Cal and get in the ACC championship game and they happen to lose to Miami, it's not a guarantee that they'd be in. Be interesting to see what the committee would do in that situation. So that's why I'm interested to see where are the Clemsons, the Alabamas, the Ole Misses, South Carolinas, who are ahead of each other right now, today, that would have that opportunity, that if the committee did decide to do something like that, who would be able to jump in.
Colorado drops all the way to 25, drops 9 spots there to start us off.
Okay.
Kansas State jumps back in.
Good. They got that wrong last week. I mean, K-State had to be in there. So K-State's at 24, two Big 12 teams, 25 and 24. Illinois jumping up in there. So it's got some 3-loss teams here.
I'm feeling Missouri's going to be right here coming up soon.
Yeah, I was going to say Mizzou will probably be somewhere between 22 and 20, I would imagine.
Okay, UNLV.
Yep.
I wonder if BYU will be behind Mizzou, or if Mizzou will be in front of.
I don't know, but hey, how about UNLV getting some new life with Colorado State?
Yeah.
Getting upset.
Yep.
And there's Mizzou at 21. Okay. Yeah, so really of these rankings here, like they got it right this time and put Kansas State back in. Yep. A&M dropped all the way to 20, bro. I say dropped all the way, 5 spots. That's quite a bit. And amazing.
Notice Army was not in the top 25.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be.
No.
Yeah. But A&M still, there's BYU at 19. So
all these teams are dropping 5 spots. So that would lead you to believe maybe Indiana's dropping to about 10th from 5th, possibly. I don't know.
You're right. I mean, most of these are 3 to 5 spots. Most of them 5. How about A&M though, man? Getting Texas this week and having a shot to get to the SEC championship game. I can't wait for that game, bro.
Yeah.
There's Iowa State at 18, so there's a 2-loss team at 18. So here's some more Big 12 teams. So again, if Iowa State is that team that's representing the Big 12, be interesting to see where they'd be ranked if Boise wins out and they win out. Right. There is our boys of John Sumrall and the Tulane Green Wave at 17, moving up 3 spots. It's a good football team, man.
Arizona State at 16.
Forks up. Okay. Moved up 5 spots. So, yeah, like you said, some dropped 5, some moved up 5. So Arizona State at 16. Be interesting to see where Boise's at. But hey, with UNLV though being that team now that's going to be in the Mountain West Championship game,
Yeah.
there's South Carolina at 15. Okay, so
Well, they put Clemson right at 14 behind Ole Miss and Alabama.
or will they put Clemson ahead of Ole Miss and Alabama?
Right.
This is where it starts getting really interesting. I wonder if people are surprised that South Carolina's below some of those teams. I know that head to head with Ole Miss and Alabama beat South Carolina, but there were a lot of people that were ragging us on social media that were saying that they think South Carolina should be up there.
There's Ole Miss.
Ole Miss at 14. Is Clemson going to be ahead of all these teams, bro? Probably so because they've got less losses. They'll keep that deal going. Alabama's going to be at 13. Clemson's going to be at 12, aren't they? That's going to be super intriguing to see. Because that would mean if Clemson would beat South Carolina, they really would have a chance.
Yeah.
If somebody
Bama
were to falter.
13.
Bama 13. So Clemson's going to be at 12.
Unless Clemson jumps Boise.
That's true. That's true.
Boise did just beat Wyoming on the road by what, 3?
Yeah.
3-1 Wyoming on the road. That's not great. That's not a great win.
No, it's not. So Alabama's got the strength of schedule of 11th. You're right. It'd be interesting to see where they got Boise or Clemson here at 11 or 12. Golly, man. Ole Miss and Alabama just had everything right there in front of them. And to lose, like Alabama to lose that game like they did against Oklahoma, not just losing against Oklahoma, but losing the way that they did. Yep, there's Clemson.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Clemson is 12. You got South Carolina at 15. That game's all of a sudden got huge implications. I mean, South Carolina beats Clemson on the road, number 12. I mean, it's really hard to jump them over Ole Miss, who went to South Carolina and won by 24. I could make an argument maybe for Bama. That game was on the road. It was a 2-point game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how much are you going to reward them for going to Clemson and beating the number 12 team in the country, who they think is the number 12 team in the country? We don't.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, again, the strength of schedules and the resumes and stuff between. I mean, South Carolina can win that argument against Ole Miss, but again, like you said, the problem is they can't because of that just beatdown that they took at home on their home field to Ole Miss. I mean, that was not even a close game. That was a beatdown.
Yeah. Kelly Ford has South Carolina 2 spots ahead of Ole Miss in the most deserving rankings.
That's interesting. There's Boise at 11. And I mean, dude.
So they're 5 spots ahead of the Big 12 leader.
Exactly. I was going to say, now with it being UNLV, that's ranked in the committee's rankings, like what they think of UNLV, and it not being Colorado State, that Boise would be playing in the Mountain West Championship game. I mean, I think there's absolutely a chance, like a really good chance, like probably will happen, that Boise would get that other bye, dude, and the Big 12 wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona State obviously beats Arizona. Maybe they get Iowa State in the championship. Maybe that's a better win. But, I mean, they're only a couple spots in front of UNLV, so what's the difference there, right?
Right, exactly. How would you justify jumping them that far ahead?
Yeah.
There's Indiana, 10. Okay, so they dropped 5 spots. Like you said, they're just kind of dropping some of these teams just 5 spots.
Yep.
So, I mean, Indiana win, they're in, right?
Yeah. SMU 9. So I kind of, I mean, gosh, I got to go back to what I texted you. Indiana 10, SMU 9. I've got my finger on the pulse here of the committee. So I had Indiana 10, SMU 9 of what I thought the committee was going to do. I think they're going to put Tennessee 8, Georgia 7, Miami 6.
Okay, you did have Clemson ahead of those SEC teams. Like what you thought.
But I thought they would have maybe a little bit more respect for Arizona State. Maybe that was my Sun Devil in me coming out, and I had Arizona State at 12. But
yeah,
nope. But I had the Clemson, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina all in a row. So yep, Tennessee number 8.
If you end up nailing this, bro, that's gonna be interesting, dude. I gotta. So
the only thing I do have is I think they have a chance that they would maybe jump Notre Dame over Penn State at number 4.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I can see that. I mean, I know that Notre Dame has that bad loss, but like they haven't cared anyway up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Notre Dame beat, #ranked win at the time. Army was ranked by this committee.
I
At the
believe Navy
time.
was ranked at the time. Maybe
Yeah.
A&M still ranked. So yeah,
There you go. You nailed it, dude.
Miami's going to be number 6 in the country.
That's yeah. And I know Miami fans think that I just despise them, and I really don't. I really don't. I'm just calling it like I personally see it, and I'm sure Miami fans, if you're a fan of Miami, you see it a completely different way.
Yeah.
But I mean, your best win is Louisville, and you lost, like, got ran over by Georgia Tech, and your strength of schedule is not even close to Georgia. Like, I just don't understand how they're ahead of Georgia and how they're 3 spots ahead of SMU.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't get that.
And 4 spots ahead of IU. I mean, we kind of
Yeah.
watched on Andy Staples today those blind resumes he had, and very, very similar.
I look at that strength of schedule 59, and Georgia's strength of schedule where it's at.
Yeah.
Again, it's just the definition of, again, the whole thing of less losses. And I guess it just maybe I need to start subscribing to that. The old thought process. Maybe I'm the idiot, bro. Maybe I need to
Yeah.
start subscribing to the thought process of just have
Yeah.
less losses. Just don't play tough teams and have less losses, and you're good.
So they kept Notre Dame at number 5.
Okay. So I mean, the rest of it's easy. Penn State 4, Texas 3, Buckeyes
Yeah.
2, and Oregon
What do you
1.
guys think out there? Hit us up on comments on YouTube.
Yeah.
Send us something in the live chat on X. Let us know what you think about these rankings. Obviously, top 5 are pretty standard what we thought, but a lot of team like Clemson jumping up to 12. Man, we're gonna take a lot of hate from this, probably from Moose and some other Clemson fans out there, but that's just that seems like a name brand one to me. Brand bias.
Yeah, like, so okay, we got Texas. Let's finish this out. Then I'm going to jump right into that immediately. So Notre Dame 5, Penn State 4, Texas 3, Ohio State 2, Oregon 1. No really any surprises there. They're kind of going over some of these brackets that they're going to be throwing out here.
Mhm.
But okay, in regards to Clemson being 12 and being the first team out, okay, they have currently 1 win against a team with a winning record. That's it. And that game, that team that they beat with a winning record was Pitt on the road when Pitt had a backup quarterback playing in that game. And it took a miracle at the very end of the game to win that game. We don't hate Clemson, okay? We don't. Again, I'm going to preface this by saying I picked Clemson at the beginning of the year to win the ACC on this podcast. I gave them out to win the ACC championship, and I bet them in their season win total over. There is no Clemson hate here. I'm just calling it again, like I personally feel and see it, that you have 1 win over a team with a winning record. The 2 best teams you've played up to this point, you got outscored 67-24. And for the folks that are just so tired of hearing about the SEC and you hate hearing about these 3-loss SEC teams, okay, I get it. I get that SEC fatigue is real. And a lot of the Clemson fans came at me on social media today about specifically that. You're saying that in the SEC team that you played, you lost 34-3. So
Yeah.
I know Clemson's playing another SEC team this week, and a good one at that in South Carolina. South Carolina's a solid squad. But I just don't understand how Clemson is the team that is the quote-unquote first team mentioned in regards to the at-large teams. So, but let me ask you this, Tyler. This is one of the first things I want to ask. So I was really curious where SMU and Miami would be. So at Miami at 6, now the committee has dropped teams really far before, but there is no way that if Miami were to win this week, that if they are the team competing in the ACC championship game against SMU, there's no way that they're playing that extra game in the ACC championship game and lose and drop all the way out, is there?
I mean, if they're dropping teams, 5 spots, like we said, if they're number 6, playing against number 9 SMU, I mean, that's not. They just dropped IU 5 spots for losing to number 2. So you lose to number 9. Maybe you drop 5, 6 spots. You're still ranked 11th or 12th. That seems
Yeah,
like you would sneak right in there. I mean, but again, I don't think they would even drop them 5 spots because you're again, like you talked about the ACC championship game, that extra data point. You're really going to punish a team the same as losing a regular season game. Like if you're Miami, just protest, just sit at home, right? You're number 6. Don't play a game.
yeah, we've talked about this a lot. Like if you're in the field, I said it at the beginning of this live show, if you are in the 12-team field going into conference championship game weekend, you're setting one hell of a awful precedent to, again, with Clemson being the team that is the right now listed as the top at large team. They're in that same conference, obviously, with SMU and Miami. If SMU and Miami are the 2 teams playing for the ACC championship, you would be setting the precedent that Clemson doesn't even qualify for the game for the ACC title. The tiebreakers that conference set forth, they didn't earn it to play in the ACC championship game, and SMU and Miami did. And the tiebreaker is because of Louisville, because SMU and Miami went on the road to a common opponent, Louisville, and beat Louisville at Louisville. And Louisville went to Clemson and spanked them in Death Valley. So if SMU or Miami were to lose, you would punish them for playing in that extra game in the ACC championship and allow Clemson to just sit at home and jump in. You would be setting the precedent that it'd have been better for SMU or Miami just to be sitting back at home, just watching the game, chilling.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's the case.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you, man. Personally, at these rankings that I see right now, I think SMU or Miami would have to lose this coming weekend against Cal, or this is the way I see it, against Cal or Syracuse. To obviously, if Miami loses to Syracuse, they wouldn't be in the ACC championship game, and Clemson would be in the ACC title game playing against SMU. So that's interesting. And for those that follow our show that know I'm an Alabama fan, I'm going to be the first to say this. Alabama's got no business being in this playoff. I'll say it again. They don't. You can't lose 24-3 second to last week of the season against a 5-loss team. Like, not only did they lose, embarrassed, ass kicked, beat down. So they don't deserve to be in this playoff either. Okay? But you're telling me Clemson does? That's where that's a problem. That's where I've got a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Be interesting to see what they do, man. If SMU and Miami are the 2 teams that play in that ACC championship game. Go ahead.
Tulane have any shot of if they both went out and them in Boise jumping up?
Nah, man. I think
win over Memphis, win over Army.
I think the worst thing that happened to Tulane was Colorado State. Well, timeout. Yes, I'll take that back. Yes, Tulane does have a shot still.
Okay.
If UNLV was to upset Boise,
I'm saying if they both went out, if Boise and Tulane both went out, can Tulane do enough to jump them?
No. With UNLV being ranked where they're at now, and them being the team that's in the Mountain West Championship game, which again, all of us as fans, if you're a fan of the sport, you want to see the best teams competing for the championships of these sports and in these conferences. And so getting Boise and UNLV on the blue carpet, I mean, come on, that's going to be sick. I'm all for it.
We had a comment that we need to keep it PG tonight. We got an 8-year-old watching.
Who said that?
My brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. Apologies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of how we probably could have made the argument for Ole Miss over Alabama when you get back to those 13 to 15 teams there. I mean,
yeah,
but again, you're splitting hairs there.
Yeah, but I'll say it again. The way that Alabama lost, not just the fact that they lost, it's the way that they lost at Oklahoma. Ole Miss went on the road. Anybody take away just thinking about records or thinking about whatever. Everybody that watches football right now, that watches these teams play, knows that Florida is a good football team right now with DJ Lagway and Jaden Ball at running back, and this current version of Florida is a really good football team.
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason why they just beat Ole Miss. There's a reason why they just beat LSU. There's a reason why they had Georgia absolutely on the ropes before Lagway went down with an injury. It's a good football team.
Yeah.
Nobody thought that about Oklahoma going into this game against Alabama. And Ole Miss, was sitting there till the very end, fighting tooth and nail with Florida in the swamp. So yeah, that's why, like, if it was like you said, if Ole Miss was ahead of Alabama, I wouldn't be sitting here arguing that. And I would
Yeah.
understand if you're an Ole Miss fan if you're arguing that they should be ahead of them. And that's probably who I'd argue the most for right now, to be honest with you, that should be ahead of Clemson. Again, South Carolina is looked at very favorably by this committee right now. Ole Miss went into Williams-Brice and won that game 27-3, guys. They beat Georgia
Yeah.
to death.
Yeah, and I wonder if they would look back on maybe the South Carolina LSU game and, talk about quarterbacks going down. Quarterback went down at halftime.
Mhm.
Questionable officiating there in that game, late in the game. I guess it's a different committee, but they kind of set a precedent of we're going to look at injuries, hence
Yep.
Jordan Travis last year. Texas is kind of a different reason. With Quinn Ewers got his injury, but I mean, when you got a guy with the last name of Manning there, they're going to be just fine. If Arch Manning was on Florida State last year, they would have made the playoff.
Yep.
So it's just going to be interesting to see what they do if South Carolina were to beat Clemson. And how much credit? I mean, does Clemson jump anybody? I mean, I think they for sure jump Boise if they beat South Carolina. And because again, we talk about Clemson and what they've done, their resume up to this point, not strong, but it doesn't really matter now because the committee has put them at number 12, and that's what they think of them right now. So it's
Yeah.
That's the problem there.
Yep, it is. So at this point, though, for them to get in, they obviously have to have one of those teams ahead of them.
They got to beat South Carolina. They got to have Tennessee lose to Vandy.
Yep.
Which again, Tennessee on the road at Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, that could easily happen.
Yep.
Um,
If that happens, would that mean that there'd only be 2 SEC teams that would get in unless
three ACC teams?
Wow. That would be something that nobody had on their bingo card going into the year. So if that happened, the only way the SEC could get 3 in would be if A&M upset Texas, and Texas would still be in, and A&M go to the SEC championship game, upset Georgia. Ooh, Georgia may not. Well, again, the extra game. If Georgia's where they're at, they probably would still be in. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's possible,
though. Yeah. Let's take a look at the lovely bracket here.
Golly, man, again, I can't get over having brackets for college football.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. So we got Arizona State, Ohio State. I think I looked today. That would probably be about a 19 to 21 point spread in favor of Ohio State.
Hey, Tyler, remember back in about July when you were telling all of our listeners that the 5 seed, when as soon as these playoff bracket rules came out of how they would be seeding teams, you said from the very beginning that the 5 seed would be the most beneficial seed of anybody out there. And look at this. Ohio State would get Arizona State on their home field in Columbus, and then they'd get Boise.
Yeah, I don't think I was alone in saying that.
No, you weren't. But
I mean, it's pretty.
You were saying it pretty early, though. I'm giving you credit. You were saying it pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I use the example of Notre Dame, obviously, because they can't get a bye.
Yep.
Everyone stopped complaining about them playing in a conference championship game. They can't get a bye.
Yep.
So yeah, Ohio State would have a pretty easy path here. I'm not sure what they'd probably be favored by 2 touchdowns on a neutral field over Boise State at least. And then they would possibly get Oregon again in the semifinals, probably for the 3rd time. Do you think it's more likely that we see 3 Oregon-Ohio State matchups or 3 Georgia-Texas matchups? I know they're not
Oregon-Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Texas got A&M this week, so that's a little tougher. But if Texas were to win, they would play each other, and who knows? Maybe they'd be on the same side of the bracket.
I mean, just quickly off the top of my head, I would say Oregon-Ohio State because, I mean, barring just, again, we've seen chaos all year, but barring Ohio State getting pantsed by Michigan again this weekend, and Oregon getting upset by Washington, which I don't think any of us think that either of those things are going to happen. But again, it's crazier things have happened. Michigan's had Ohio State's number lately, and Washington, same thing with Oregon. But I think surely those two teams will get back after their rival this weekend and get revenge against their rivals. And if that's the case, then exactly what you're looking at right now. Just look at this bracket. I mean, the winner of that game is going to be the 1 seed for sure. If it's Oregon, Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and the loser of that game is going to be the 5 seed for sure.
Yeah.
So
Ward Manuel's getting interviewed right now, by the way. So he said they were impressed by some of the things Indiana did in the first half. Obviously, Ohio State took over, but they're asking him now because I don't think we even picked up on it, but Tulane is 1 spot behind Arizona State, and the 5 highest conference champions go. So I mean, again, we still have a chaos scenario where Texas Tech and Baylor and even West Virginia could get into the conference championship game. Tulane wins out there. I mean, we're talking 2 G5 champions ahead of the Big 12.
Think about that. You're right, man. If a total chaotic situation happened for the Big 12, like you just said, teams that aren't even ranked at all right now, would the committee just to prevent that? Surely because that would be so obvious that they had an agenda with that they did not want another Group of 5 team in there, that they would jump Baylor, for example, or West Virginia, whatever, completely from out of the rankings all the way up to 15.
Yeah.
In a 2-week period?
Yeah.
I don't think they would do that. Surely not, dude. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reese asked him about conference championship game losers and kind of talking about the ACC.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone's watching that right now, and obviously we appreciate you watching us too. So they're just gonna watch. He said they're gonna watch the games. They're gonna see how teams compete. Obviously, if it's a scenario back in 2014 where Ohio State wins 59-0,
yep,
committee can't do anything about but take them over TCU and Baylor. But again, the 31-28 game between Miami and SMU, they're both going to be in.
Let me ask you this: Do you think we get some chaos this weekend? More. We had a lot this past weekend. You think we get more?
Yeah, we almost have to fill our quota, but I think we do. Because again, we're going to talk about this stuff all week, like we did last week. Does Indiana in, or do they deserve to be in even before they played Ohio State? Turns out it doesn't matter. They're number 10. If they beat Purdue, they're going to be in the playoff. So it's I think rivalry weekend. Anytime you get rivals together, there is a definite case.
Yeah,
to be made for chaos.
So let me ask you this: Do you think if Notre Dame would get upset in the Coliseum at USC, are they still in?
Oh, man, what are they ranked? Number 5. Again, I mean, you could drop 5 spots, I guess.
But even if they drop 5, they'd still be in, right?
Yeah, I think we saw Colorado lose to Kansas, who's, their record is worse than USC, probably playing better than them right now, but they lost by 16 and they dropped 9 spots.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just no telling.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to know what their thought process is on, because obviously, again, they're 5th right now. I mean, if Notre Dame would have beaten Northern Illinois, what would they would be at 3rd? They'd be 3rd right now? They might be 2nd. They might be 2nd because they'd be undefeated.
They'd be 2nd, yeah.
Yeah, they'd be 2nd. Okay, but still, that's only 3 spots.
Yeah.
Different from where they're at right now.
Yeah.
So, but if they were to lose another game, the pounding of the table from the rest of the college football world, if they're still in it, because they lost to Northern Illinois, and then they had another, again, it's called what it is. Even though USC's got talent, that's still a bad loss.
Yeah.
Losing to USC, it would be, it'd get interesting real quick.
Yep. You got that 9-8 right there on the bracket, Tennessee-Georgia rematch, again, in Athens. So that'd be interesting. We'll see if that sticks. I guess if all the favorites, if everybody ranked wins, if Miami wins, and I don't see anybody moving, that could be a possible 8-9 matchup. Then you got Indiana, Penn State. There's been a lot of argument, what's the difference between Indiana and Penn State this year? They both lost to Ohio State, both 10-1. Haven't really played, many teams outside that. You'd be able to settle that one on the field in Happy Valley on X. Matt Maraglia, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but he said Penn State is a fraudulent football team. Give me every team in the top 12, probably top 15 over Penn State. And I was kind of texting you on Saturday night, kind of before some of the Alabama chaos had, that I kind of hope Penn State makes the playoff. So it gives me a really good shot to make some money betting against them, on
Yeah.
whatever team that gets to go to Happy Valley, because they beat Maryland this week. They're going to host a game. And that'll be a good environment. But we've seen Penn State when they play good teams, Ohio State or Michigan. Last year in the bowl game, Ole Miss. We talked about last time they won a big game was, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I don't know. So
Yeah.
they just don't lose to anybody they're not supposed to. So interesting take by Matt there.
Yeah, Matt, appreciate you joining in on the show today, man. Appreciate it. And thanks for the comment there. And honestly, it's kind of hard to argue against your point there. We actually personally have Penn State. Where do we have Penn State at, Tyler, right now? Like in our own rankings, somewhere around like 8 or 9 or something like that.
We got them at number 8.
We got them at number 8. Okay, so we've got them lower than what the committee has, and a lot of the same things same reasons that you just said. I mean, year after year, they just beat up on the teams that they're favored by a lot more than, and they always lose to the teams that they're not favored against. So totally get your thought process on that. I mean, if you really think about it, like Texas with the eye test, Texas does look like one of the best teams in the country, but resume wise, Texas doesn't have a bunch of, really any like big time wins. I mean, people keep talking about Texas's best win right now is what? Vandy
Right.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like Penn State, like they don't really have any big signature wins either. So they're kind of both in the same boat in that scenario. Obviously, Texas this weekend has their opportunity on the road in College Station. That's still a really good win, but that's not necessarily a top 10 win or anything like that, like some of these other teams have. But still, that's a really solid win. And then they would have a chance in the SEC championship game to get a signature win against the team that beat them earlier this year in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But good stuff, Matt. Appreciate you joining on the show, man.
Let's see how our guys over at BCS Know How. We always like to compare the old BCS rankings.
Yep.
So they've got Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame. They actually have, Georgia ahead of Miami, which is probably fair. And then they got Miami and SMU only separated by 1 spot. Indiana at 9, Tennessee all the way down at 10. Indiana ahead of Tennessee in their rankings. That's interesting. But then, yeah, they've got Boise State, Clemson, and Alabama. They got Clemson ahead of those guys. Arizona State ahead of South Carolina, ahead of Ole Miss. Interesting to see that there with the computers.
Yeah, that's normally I agree with this, but I kind of differ on some of that.
So you're praising the committee.
No, not necessarily. But I don't really have anything that I'm just necessarily like egregious against at the moment, other than like I don't think that Clemson should be where they are. I just don't. But that's fine. I'll go to war. I guess what is it? What am I now? I'm a coot.
A coot, man.
I'm
Stop
a coot.
being a coot.
I learned today what a coot is on social media, posting that video. Amazing.
Yep.
Born and raised in the deep South. I never knew what a coot was until today. You learn something new every day. But anyway, I mean, as far as BCS know-how, I mean, I definitely agree that Georgia should be ahead of Miami. We've already talked about that. And I love that they've got Miami, SMU, and Indiana paired all right there together. Because, again, Miami should not be just so far ahead of either one of those teams. They shouldn't. They shouldn't be 3 spots ahead of SMU at this point. They shouldn't be 5 spots ahead or whatever they are, ahead of Indiana at this point. So that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, man, at this point, it really, like, I guess the biggest thing that we need to, I mean, we've only got this rivalry weekend of games, and then we've got conference championship weekend. If we don't have chaos this weekend, I'm still going to die on the hill that barring just a shellacking, like you said, just an absolute beatdown in a conference championship game, if you are in the field, I don't see how they knock you out. I just don't. But obviously, if you're not in the field and you got to play your way in, for example, Texas A&M, like they've got to beat Texas and then they've got to go win the SEC championship game to get in. That's a different scenario. So Or obviously, same thing with the Big 12.
Yeah.
Boise, those are different. But like, Texas, if they go win against Texas A&M, then they would lose the SEC championship game. Obviously, they shouldn't be punished.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard our boy Josh Pate say this as well, that he doesn't necessarily believe that not only should you not be punished and knocked out of the rankings, you shouldn't be punished at all and drop. They shouldn't even drop in the rankings. I can't sit here and say that I necessarily agree with that,
Who
depending
shouldn't
on
drop in the rankings?
the what?
Who shouldn't drop?
He's saying, Josh Pate said a couple of weeks ago in one of his shows that he's of the belief that not only should you not drop out of the playoff field if you're in your conference championship like game and you're playing and you're already in the field, you shouldn't drop out of the CFP rankings. You shouldn't drop at all, period. Like for example, if SMU's the 8 seed going into it in the conference championship game weekend, they shouldn't be dropping in the rankings at all. They should still be the same seed.
But clearly, if they beat Miami, Miami would drop behind SMU, right?
Yes, I'm saying if SMU lost.
Okay, so you're just saying like the underdog or whoever's lower ranked.
Correct.
Okay.
Like they shouldn't be dropping below other teams
Yeah.
that like didn't play in the game or whatever. Like in this
I
example,
think most of that's held true in the past.
yeah. Well, again, let's just use this as an example. If SMU is 9 going into the CFP's final rankings, going into conference championship game week, not the final, but going into conference championship game weekend, Indiana is 10, and Indiana is not playing in conference championship game weekend, and SMU were to lose against Miami, Josh Pate is saying that Indiana shouldn't jump to 9 and SMU back to 10. It should stay SMU at 9.
Yeah.
Is what he was saying. And I don't necessarily disagree. Other teams didn't play. They didn't qualify for their championship games.
Yeah.
So, wow, man. Like you said, the old Palmetto Bowl that people told you when you put out that awesome graphic earlier in the year for the top rivalries in college football, you had them somewhere between 10 to 12.
I think
Maybe
I have
12.
10. Maybe
10?
12. Yeah, you
Somewhere
just got to
between 10
know
and 12.
ball. You got to know ball.
Yeah. Some people don't. And again, fans of these other teams think that all these other games are bigger rivalries than certain games. But again, we learned from that post today, there's some big Clemson and South Carolina fans out there that just hate each other.
I know. We're still waiting on our guy Moose. I know they're
Moose,
recording
are you
their show
listening
tonight.
right now, bro? Or are
I
you
know
doing your own
they're
live
recording their
show?
show tonight, but it'll be put out tomorrow. I'm assuming his response will come in podcast form tomorrow from Walk On Red Shirts.
You think so?
I think so. He'll call out Lance
Man,
Sweeney.
He gonna come at me, isn't he? It's the week of the Iron Bowl. He's gonna be breaking out the Lance Freeze
Yeah.
stuff again. Hey, you already called me Lance Sweeney, so I don't know which it is.
Yeah. It's just
So-
interesting. I wish someone would put out a bracket. We talked about it a little bit ago, actually a couple days ago or so. But what I think they're trending towards doing away with the 4 highest conference champions getting buys.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the first steps they're going to take in fixing some of this, or kind of making tweaks to it, not fixing it, just making tweaks to it. And obviously, Arizona State, again, the 5 highest conference champions would still be represented. So you would still be represented, and you'd probably still be a 12 seed. Boise State, though, you would be an 11 seed. And you would put the actual teams who deserve to be ranked. And I think that would, honestly, if you get the 4 best teams in with a bye, and you get that 4 seed, that would eliminate the 5 seed having an easy path.
Yep.
Who's Big Ten or SEC championship game loser most years, that would eliminate them having an easy path, I think.
Correct me if I'm wrong, man. Maybe I'm just being prisoner of the moment and I'm just having a brain fart here. Is there another sport that has bracket form that's like that? That where you're rewarding teams for being like you're rewarding teams with much yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, maybe like NHL or something. NBA doesn't even do that anymore for division champs.
No.
I mean, NFL still does. You've seen the rare cases where a 4 seed is a 8 and 9 division champion, and they host
Yeah.
a 9 and 8. Yeah, so they do have stuff like that, and I guess they try to reward championships won in your division. But I mean, even in the NFL, all divisions are not created equal. So
No, it's already been said too, man, by a lot of people that's within the know that they believe when 2026 rolls around The playoffs going to expand again. It
Mhm.
won't be 12 teams. It'll probably be 16 teams, and that they will be removing the whoever. If you win your conference, you get the top 4 seeds in the bye. I think
Yeah.
that will. I do think that will be
Yeah.
removed, and it
Let me
should
ask
be.
you a
Man, come
question.
on. This is you're competing for the championship of this sport. That should be coveted
Yeah.
for who is considered the best teams in this sport. I've got
Yeah.
no problem with that.
Yeah. Let me paint you a scenario. Oregon and Ohio State playing the Big Ten championship game. Oregon wins.
Okay.
Georgia and Texas play in the SEC championship game. Georgia wins. Does Texas drop back to do they get the 5 seed and Ohio State get the 6 seed to, and I know they're ranked ahead of them right now, but do they, does the flip flop seeds to kind of maybe avoid
Rematches.
another Ohio State Oregon rematch in the semis?
I don't think
I know
there's any
they, I
way.
know they said they never were going to do that and they weren't going to look at that, but
I just don't think there's any way they could do that, man.
I mean, okay, what if A&M? I mean, Texas goes on the road this week and they beat A&M by 10 points. That's a good win for them.
It is. I mean,
So
it's not. I don't know. I think that honestly, man, I do think it is out of the question. I mean, Ohio State's got two top 10 wins
mhm,
right now. Unless I'm mistaken, they're the only one that has that.
yeah.
So that would still, in my opinion, trump that.
Can Notre Dame do anything to jump Penn State?
Who's Penn State got this week? Maryland. They got the
Maryland.
Terps. They got the Terps.
Yeah. 4-7 Maryland, I think.
I mean, man, Notre Dame has been. I know everybody just. Anytime it drives me nuts, bro. That anytime you even mention Notre Dame's name, the next word out of their mouth, Northern Illinois, and it's like they just don't look at anything else of the entire season.
Yeah.
Like they've just been beating the brakes off of everybody, and look. Like when you watch them with your eyes, they look like a dang good football team.
Hmm.
If they go out to the Coliseum and beat a mid, and again they're mid, USC's mid, but they still got athletes. If they go out and just destroy a USC bunch and Penn State struggles with Maryland, sure. But I don't think there's any chance unless that's what happens because Maryland beat USC.
Yeah.
It would, I mean, it would have to be like, again, what Notre Dame's been doing to all these other teams. They just beat the brakes off the Trojans, and Penn State struggles with Maryland, which I don't
Yeah.
think they're going to struggle with Maryland.
Yeah. A note I saw was that 6 FBS teams have led in every fourth quarter this season, and
USC 's one
USC
of
is
them.
one of those 6 teams.
Yep.
And they've got 5 losses. The other 5 teams have 5 losses combined. So USC's been competitive, which is why they're still top 15, top 20 in all the power ratings you see.
The dude, look. I know we all like to pile up on USC and make fun of Lincoln Riley and all that stuff. That's fine.
Yep.
I mean, everybody enjoy it, have fun, do it. Don't blame you.
Yeah.
They're still like a talented football. They're not a good football team, but they're a talented football team.
Yeah.
And when you have a talented football team, it's capable on any Saturday that bunch shows up and plays like that talented team.
Yeah.
Ask Texas A&M about Auburn this past weekend at Auburn.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that had to do with that black voodoo magic down there at Haunted Hair. But love that Nick Saban called that place a haunted house, and then now there's a bunch of Auburn fans that are nicknaming it Haunted Hair.
Yeah.
But still, like Auburn's a talented football team. They're the same situation. They've had a bunch of games where they had leads in the second half and just blew it.
Yeah.
And they didn't against Tech. Well, actually, they did. They did blow it against Texas
Yeah.
A&M. They ended up
Yeah.
winning it in overtime.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody watching, tuning in on X. If you're not familiar with our show, on Sunday nights when we record, come out on Monday, we do a little game called Guess the Spread. So I'm going to spring one on Lance here and do a Guess the Spread on the projected first round CFP spreads presented by FanDuel. Arizona State at Ohio State. I kind of spoiled it a little bit, but what would you think the spread would be?
I got to be honest. I don't remember what you said.
Arizona State at Ohio State?
Golly, playoff scenario. This is going to be tough. Buckeyes 21.5.
Buckeyes 21. Close.
Okay.
Indiana at Penn State.
The Nittany Lions. What was Ohio State again? They were around 13.
They dropped
ended
down
up going off at
10.5 or
11.
11.
Yeah, 10.5 or 11.
Yeah.
Penn State. I may be way off here. 7.
Penn State 9.5.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, but again, what we saw from Indiana,
Yeah.
is it not enough?
Yeah.
A lot of people might think so.
Yep.
SMU at Notre Dame. We did. This was one of the blind resumes, and they were pretty similar. But you chose the team A, which is Notre Dame. So SMU at Notre Dame coming up north.
Notre Dame 11.5.
10,
Okay. Close.
and then Tennessee at Georgia.
At Georgia. Tennessee at Georgia?
Yeah.
Like 13.
No, it's 8.5. It's pretty much the same as what it was a couple weeks ago.
I thought it was more. Oh, we got him.
It was-
Sorry. I went blank, man.
Yeah.
That was a different game I was thinking of. Yeah, you're right. Because we both put them out at, we put Georgia out at 9.5.
Yeah.
10. I thought we put them out at 13. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, we put them out at 9.5 for 10 against Tennessee. So, yeah, but same thing.
Yeah. So those are first round spreads there. Again, nothing closer than 8.5 points, which is kind of what you're hoping to avoid when you go to this 12 team playoff from the 14 playoff and maybe get some more competitive games. And a couple weeks ago, I think we had some spreads there that were pretty close. Like a Notre Dame at Penn State was a 1.5 point spread. I think Alabama was going on the road. So it was when those
Dude,
SEC teams were going on the road.
I was going to say, man, let's just call it what it is. The reason why that we're going to end up with probably not now. I'm not saying the games on the field won't turn out to be great games, but I'm saying as far as the point spreads are concerned, like you're talking about, these SEC teams wet in the bed like they did this past
I was
weekend.
going to say we have nobody to blame but the SEC.
Yeah. Like I said, they have nobody to blame but themselves. They had everything to play for, and Ole Miss choked. Bama, I don't know what you call that. That's the definition of wet in the bed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, neither one of those teams, if they were still in the playoff hunt, you would see that these matchups would be much closer as far as the spreads are concerned.
Yeah.
But they're still like, I'm not going to sit here and say that SMU and Notre Dame wouldn't be a good game. We have no idea. Maybe it would be. Indiana, Penn State. Personally, I would love to see that matchup because we have been talking about all year, like, why is Penn State so far ranked ahead of Indiana?
Yep.
Why is Indiana not getting any love like that? Why is Penn State getting all this love? Well, we would get that answer.
I know you disagreed. To me, their game against Ohio State was really similar. But you know, it is what it is. Let's bring up one more time before we get out of here. Let's look at
That's good numbers on X, man. We had a lot of people join in. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's look at these the top 25 rankings once again. Just kind of any closing thoughts you might have. Just kind of looking down the line here.
Yeah, I'll go down the line pretty good.
I don't think it really. We talk about them sneaking teams in the 20s there. Illinois was in last week. UNLV was in last week. I don't think it really benefits anybody that Kansas State and Colorado jumped in, or I guess stayed in. Kansas State jumped in. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just, again, I don't think Miami should be ahead of Georgia. And they shouldn't be 3 spots ahead of SMU and 4 spots ahead of Indiana. It's extremely intriguing to me that SMU's at 9. If they do win this week against Cal, make the ACC championship game, I just, unless they get just absolutely annihilated, I don't know that they should drop out completely out of the rankings.
Yeah.
If Miami at 6, they probably would if they lost to Syracuse. They probably would drop back because, again, they set the precedent today. I don't think they did that as a, like, we're going to rank these teams and drop them 5 spots just in case if some of these teams lose next weekend, we can drop them 5 spots then. I don't think they're thinking that. But, like, that's what we saw tonight where some of these teams losing, they dropped 5 spots. A lot of them did.
Yeah.
So if Miami's at 6 and drop back to 11, that means that they'd be out at that point if they lose this weekend at Syracuse. And they would need some help to get back in the dance. And I don't know that they'd get it because if they lose, Clemson now is back in the ACC championship game. And then you've got that scenario again where, wait a minute, so Clemson's playing for the ACC championship and Miami's not. And if Clemson loses in a war against SMU, that Miami can jump them from not playing in the game, like, you're back into that scenario. But that time it's on that one's on Miami and not on Clemson. The shoe's on the other foot. So that's extremely intriguing to deal with the ACC there to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But we said a few weeks ago that it definitely looked like there was no way that the ACC or the Big 12 could get more than one team in. It definitely looks like the ACC has a great chance to get 2 into this thing now.
Yeah. Your boys down in Tuscaloosa, I know Maybe some of your buddies are watching. A lot of them are watching the Alabama-Houston game right now.
Yep.
Looks like they're going to need
A lot of help.
one, the Miami or SMU to lose. I mean, again, though,
They didn't lose this weekend.
if Miami loses this weekend, would they drop behind Alabama? I mean,
No, I
we
don't
got
think they
Clemson
would.
ahead of Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think they would. To be honest with you, Clemson being ahead of Alabama, like I think that pretty much they would need okay, let's just go over for Alabama based off what I'm looking at here. For Alabama to get in, they would need Clemson to lose this weekend, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
They have to beat Auburn, which is not going to be an easy task the way they've been playing and the way Auburn's played recently. And then, I mean, obviously an Indiana upset for the bucket against Purdue, but like that would be as big of an upset as there is this year almost.
Yep.
The way Purdue's been playing, the way Indiana's been playing. So I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, even if Tennessee loses to Vandy, okay, well, Bama lost to Vandy too, and Tennessee beat Vandy. So I don't think that's possible that would happen.
Right.
Honestly, man, there's really not a whole lot of scenarios where I see it, and I know that there'll be a lot of Alabama fans that would say that if SMU would lose in the ACC championship game, that they feel like that there's a chance that Alabama could get in. I'm an Alabama fan. I'll tell you that should not happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that should happen. If again, the way Alabama lost to Oklahoma, they don't deserve to be in this playoff, man. They just don't. I hate saying that. I hate it so much. It sucks. But it's just
don't you worry. We're gonna when we get our preview episode tomorrow, we are going to dive into Alabama Auburn, obviously the rest of rivalry week. Kind of do some game previews there. One more time here. This bracket that we're looking at, everybody out there listening who loves to shill for the little guy and for the underdogs, and trust me, everybody loves a good underdog story. I mean, everybody loves the movie Miracle, right? Most people love the movie Rudy, Hoosiers, right? All those, they're great movies. Remember the Titans. You're going to get your wish at what it looks like, and you're going to get Arizona State, and you're going to get SMU, and you're going to get Indiana in some of these games. And they're going to have a chance to pull the upset, albeit on the road. But just be careful what you wish for, because you may get a game where you're turning off in the second or third quarter. So,
Yep.
I mean, again, my point is, would Alabama present a stiffer test, a better game against a team like Ohio State than Indiana would? Yes, most likely, because the talent is there. The problem is, like you said, they haven't done a thing to deserve it. And
they haven't earned it.
And that's just that's where you get in between who's the best team, who's the most deserving. Kelly Ford Ratings said brilliantly and so simple. I mean, it's just, if you're going to do the best team, why even play the games from August to November? So you got to have the games played on the field. It may not always work out in your favor, but that's just how it works out. And every year's different.
Yep. And dude, last thing for me,
Yep.
looking at the chaos that happened last weekend, some of the biggest winners, we talked about it. Indiana, obviously, was, in my opinion, the biggest winner from all of that, because they probably were going to drop out. But especially now what I'm looking at, they dropped back to 10. If Ole Miss and Alabama take care of business, I think they're out. And they would have needed help to get back in. And inadvertently, like, nobody's talking about this, but Texas was a huge winner in that situation too, because there was absolutely already people discussing about, well, if Texas would lose to Texas A&M, they would have no good wins, and you're not going to put in 5, 6, whatever SEC teams. If you did put in 5 SEC teams, Texas would be that 5th, because Texas A&M beat them, would be in the SEC championship game, and Georgia and Alabama and Ole Miss and Tennessee and all those teams would be in it. So Texas now, they're in. They can lose Texas A&M this weekend. They're not going to drop completely out. So they're already in, no matter what. So they were another huge winner that I don't think a lot of people talked about in that scenario.
Yeah.
But what a huge game we've got Saturday night, bro, in College Station with everything on the line.
Pretty big game at noon, too.
Oh, huge game at noon. The Palmetto Bowl just got
Yeah.
a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And again, two good football teams. Never said Clemson wasn't a good football team. Just because I said that I don't think they should be the team that is the top at large to get a chance to get into this 12-team college football playoff doesn't mean I think they're not a good team.
Yeah.
Uh,
We got to
and
clip
playing
that and
in
put that on TikTok.
do what?
We got to clip that and put that on TikTok.
Yeah, I know, man.
We never said they were a bad team.
No, no, man. People, you thought that I was calling every Clemson fan's mama a bad name today for just saying that I didn't think they should be
Yeah.
an large college football playoff team.
Yeah.
But
Well,
instead,
the committee is tending to disagree with you. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting, man. We got one more Saturday of games. We're going to put out our episode either later tomorrow or maybe Thursday morning. What better way to drive to grandma's house or whoever? Kids are in the back on their iPads, whatever. Just throw in a little Always Talking Ball. We'll have it for you on Apple and Spotify. If you get bored tomorrow night or, during the day, you don't want to watch the Lions kill the Bears, maybe you want to turn on YouTube. Always Talking Ball will be there. Find us on Instagram, X, everywhere you can find us. We're there. So, again, another successful live show, buddy. We appreciate everybody listening, tuning in,
Absolutely.
comments, all that stuff. We'll do it one more time next week to recap, kind of the rankings going into the college football conference championships. And then we'll probably hop on that Sunday around noon Eastern and do a live reveal of the playoff because these have been really fun. We appreciate everybody tuning in. And you got anything else?
no, man, just excited to talk about rivalry weekend with you. Pick out some games, give out some best bets for those that are still listening.
Best bets.
Oh, you got some. You got some
Glad
more.
you mentioned it.
got
For
some
everybody
more?
tuning in, we still got some best bets. We were 8-5 last week. You were 5-4. That's in the green.
20,
for anybody.
hey, 26 and 13, 26 and 14. I think your boy is the last 5 weeks.
We've
So
caught fire. We've
we
caught
have,
fire.
man. We're doing
So,
good. We're doing good.
You
We're
got
getting-
any?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
I've been-
Get
I've
them
been-
all
I've
out
been-
tomorrow night.
I've been firing early in the week. Everybody knows who listened to our episode on Monday. I got A&M at plus 7.5. And I got Kansas at plus 105 on the money line. They're now minus 115. They've flipped to a favorite of minus 1.5 at Baylor.
They're at, yeah, they're
I
at
gotta-
Baylor, right? Yeah.
Got a good number there. Other ones I'm on. I got Iowa early on Monday. I put these all on the Action Network. You can go follow me on there. I got Iowa at minus 3.5
That's
against
up to 5.5,
Nebraska.
isn't it?
5.5 or 6 right now, home against Nebraska.
I'm telling you guys, books are shaking.
Yeah. If you follow along with Always Talking Ball, you know I love me some troops unless they're playing the Irish. I'm going to go back to the well, and I'm going to go to Army. Minus 7 at home. Noon kickoff against UTSA. This is where the troops roll started last year. When they played UTSA at UTSA, they were big underdogs. They won by 8 outright.
Yeah.
I think they'll come back motivated. Hoosiers, minus 27.5. I got them early. They're up to 28.5, 29 now. I think they get not necessarily revenge on Purdue, but I think they come out pretty angry. They want to make a statement. If Siggs can put 70 on Purdue, he absolutely will. Also, all of you IU fans out there who are complaining about Ryan Day scoring with 30 seconds left, shut up. Okay? Shut up. It's football. If you don't want him to score, stop him. You just wanted the game to be as close as possible. Shut up about it. You're number 10. Don't worry about it. Last bet I got, kind of got a bad number on this one right now. We'll see what it does later, but I took Iowa State in Farmageddon, minus 3.
Okay.
Kansas State has been awful on the road.
They have.
I know Matt Campbell as a favorite is not the best, but Kansas State's 1-4 against the spread on the road. So I'm going to take a shot with Iowa State. They control their destiny. They win, and they're in, unless there's some chaos scenario that I'm not thinking about. I know there's a scenario where Arizona State could still win this week and not get in the conference championship game, and we'll break all that down tomorrow. I know you're baffled by that, so we'll break it all down because the Big 12 is just it's the chaos conference, like we said. So
bonkers.
Those are my bets right now. I got 6. I might fire away at a couple more tomorrow. As
It might be my segment, a best bet segment tomorrow night.
Love it. I love it. All right, that's it. Appreciate everybody tuning in live. Had to get the best bets in there. Hopefully you're tuning in right now. Follow me on Action Network. Follow us on every social media, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Share the podcast with your friends. We love doing this. We have a great time, and we will see y'all next week. If you don't hear from us, happy Thanksgiving. All right, I caught a little second win there.
Are we still live?
I don't think so. But it's not